Elliott Institute. First, I would like to congratulate Dr. Vitul Gupta for organizing such a beautiful conference in our city, and thanks the organizing team for giving me the platform to discuss the today's topic, electrolyte imbalance in ICU. Though it is a vast topic, but I will try to cover it in the allotted time. We will covering the following electrolytes: sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium, both hypo and hyper in these cases. First of all, the total body volume is around 42 liters, out of which 33% is extracellular, of which 7% is in plasma, 26% is interstitial fluid, and only 1% is lymph, and 67% is intercellular fluid. So there are two compartments, the extracellular fluid and intercellular fluid. Intercellular fluid is basically high in potassium, low in sodium, low in chloride, and high in organic anions. The extracellular fluid is low in potassium, high in sodium, high in chloride. The sodium-potassium balance is maintained by sodium-potassium pump. Just remember this formula. It will help in our future slides. The serum osmolality. Number of osmoles in the serum is called serum osmolality. The range is 275 to 295 milliosmoles per liter. Then how to calculate it? It's 2 times the value of serum plus value of glucose divided by 18 plus BUN divided by 2.8. Now coming to disorders of potassium balance. Potassium, both hypo and hyper, can be life-threatening. So we'll discussing potassium first. Normal plasma potassium concentration is 3.5 to 5 milligrams per liter. First of all, hypokalemia. Hypokalemia is plasma potassium less than 3.5 milligrams per liter. The causes of hypokalemia: redistribution into cells, increased loss or decreased intake. First we will take redistribution to cells. It's metabolic alkalosis, or if you are taking some hormones like insulin, beta-2 agonist, alpha antagonist. The anabolic state like vitamin B12 deficiency, folic acid deficiency, or patients in ICU in total parenteral nutrition. The others are hypokalemic periodic paralysis, hypothermia, barium toxicity. The increased loss. The increased loss can occur from renal or GI. The renal causes are primary, all sorts of syndromes. The primary hyperaldosteronism, secondary hyperaldosteronism, congenital renal hyperplasia, Cushing syndrome, Barrett syndrome, Liddle syndrome, renal tubular acidosis, diabetic ketoacidosis. Then using some diuretics, aminoglycosides, penicillins, and GI losses. The second is decreased intake, either because of starvation or clay ingestion in children. The clinical features of hypokalemia. Manifestations vary between patients. Usually the patients are asymptomatic. They become symptomatic only when the value is less than 3 milliequivalents per liter. The main side is clinical features are neuromuscular, which includes fatigue, myalgia, muscular weakness, progressive weakness and hypoventilation as severity increases, rhabdomyolysis and paralytic ileus. Then other clinical features are cardiovascular, which include abnormal ECG, arrhythmias, orthostatic hypotension, decreased cardiac contractility, potential arrhythmogenic effect of digoxin, and myocardial fibrosis. The ECG changes includes appearance of U wave in hypokalemia, flattening and inversion of T wave, ST segment depression, prolonged QT interval, prominent U waves, prolonged PR interval, widening of QRS complex, and ventricular arrhythmias. These are the ECG showing prominent U waves, biphasic T waves, and depressed ST segment. Now, how to diagnose hypokalemia? First, the history, and second is the measure the urinary potassium excretion. If it is less than 50 millimoles per day, or it is more than 50 millimoles per day. If it is less than 50 millimoles per day, then you assess the acid-base status. If it is metabolic acidosis ABG, then the cause is the GI losses. And if it is metabolic alkalosis, the cause is diuretic, either vomiting or potassium loss in sweat. And if the urinary concentration loss is more than 15 milliequivalents per day, then assess the potassium excretion. Then you have to calculate the transtubular potassium gradient. If it is more than 4, then assess the acid-base status. The metabolic acidosis shows decay, prominal renal tubular acidosis, or distal renal tubular acidosis. If ABG shows metabolic alkalosis, and a person is having hypertension, then if it is yes, then it could be meningocortical excess or Liddle syndrome. If there is no hypertension, then it will be vomiting, Bartter syndrome, diuretic use, or hypomagnesemia. And if the transtubular potassium gradient is less than 2, then the cause could be salt washing nephropathy, osmotic diuresis, or plain diuretic. Then how to treat hypokalemia? The therapeutic goal should be correct potassium deficit to minimize the ongoing losses to prevent the life-threatening complications. Principle to take care is safer to correct potassium by oral route. A decremental of 1 millimoles per liter in plasma potassium may represent a total body potassium deficit of 200 to 400 milliequivalents. Dextrose containing solution should be avoided. If the value is 3.5 to 4 milliequivalents per liter, then increase the intake of potassium containing fruits like bananas and coconut water. If it is 3 to 3.5 milliequivalents per liter, then the treatment should be given only in high risk patients. And if it is less than 3 milliequivalents per liter, they need a definitive treatment. Oral potassium is much safer. Potassium chloride preparations are available. Potassium bicarbonate and citrate should be avoided. Mild to moderate hyperkalemia. KCl with 60 to 80 milligrams per day should be given in 3 to 4 divided doses. Severe to asymptomatic 40 milligrams every 6 hourly under ECG monitoring. Each 15 ml solution contains 20 milligrams of potassium. IV potassium is given only in severe symptomatic hypokalemia, continuous ECG monitoring and frequent potassium estimation. Never give KCl directly. Rapid IV correction can lead to dangerous hyperkalemia. Use isotonic saline. Do not mix with dextrose containing fluids. 15% of KCl solution in 10 ml of ampule is available. This 10 ml of ampule contains 20 milligrams of potassium. Then how to give? As cardiac rhythm returns to normal, KCl drip is tapered and oral potassium is initiated. The IV potassium should not exceed 8 milligrams per liter by peripheral vein, and if you have a central line, then faster placements, maximum up to 20 milligrams per hour can be given. Then some anesthetic complications of hypokalemia. Chronic hypokalemia most susceptible to arrhythmias. ECG monitoring is must in these cases. Glucose-free solution should be given. Potentiates the effects of neuromuscular blocking agents. Avoid alkalosis in such patients. Hyperventilation should be avoided. Now coming to hyperkalemia. Hyperkalemia is the most dangerous in ICU setup. Plasma concentration more than 5 milliequivalents per liter is called hyperkalemia. The causes are either decreased renal excretion of potassium, which includes renal failure, primary hypoaldosteronism, secondary hypoaldosteronism, drugs like spironolactone, NSAIDs, ACE inhibitors, trimethoprim. Then there is extracellular movement of potassium, which includes acidosis, hyperkalemic periodic paralysis, succinylcholine, rhabdomyolysis, cell lysis following chemotherapy, and D-Chalice overdose. There could be enhanced colloidal reabsorption in case of Gordon syndrome or increased potassium intake by patients or pseudohyperkalemia. Clinical features are mostly skeletal and cardiovascular. Skeletal are weakness, recessive paralysis, and hyperventilation. And CVS, they include, it depends upon the value of potassium in the blood serum. Increased T-wave amplitude comes up when the values are 6 to 7 milligrams per liter for long PR interval. QRS widening and loss of P-wave occurs when the values are 7 to 8. Sine wave pattern at around 8 to 9. And ventricular fibrillation asystole when the values are more than 9 milligrams per liter. This is ECG pattern showing tall T waves for long QRS interval and for long PR interval. The tall T waves, loss of P wave, and then ventricular arrhythmias, widening QRS complex. Diagnosis excludes pseudohyperkalemia and transcellular potassium shift. Exclude the oligorenal failure, stop NSAIDs, ACE inhibitors, then assess the potassium excretion. Then you have to measure the transtubular potassium gradient. I am talking about this term transtubular potassium gradient. You must be wondering how to measure it. You have to take two samples, one of blood sample and urine sample, and then measure the potassium concentration in both the samples. The gradient will tell the transtubular potassium gradient. If it is less than 5, then it usually responds to fluorocortisone. If it is more than 10, its cause is primary secondary hypoaldosteronism. And the transtubular potassium gradient is more than 10, there should be decreased circulating volume or low protein diet. Treatment, where the principle should be more than 6 millicrons per liter should be treated to minimize the membrane excitability, to shift potassium into cells, promote potassium loss. If you are posted in ICU, you must know the treatment of hyperkalemia. First is calcium gluconate, 10% solution in 10 ml of ampule should be given over 5 to 10 minutes. Repeated if no change in ECG is seen after 5 to 10 minutes. It helps to protect the myocardium from toxicity of potassium. Second is the insulin glucose drip. 10 to 20 units of regular insulin in 50 ml of 25 to 50% of dextrose should be given bolus, followed by 5% dextrose infusion. The effect usually begins in 15 minutes and peaks in 60 minutes. Then sodium bicarbonate, 7.5% of 50 to 100 milligrams is given as IV slowly over 10 to 20 minutes. Then beta agonist, salbutamol, 20 milligrams in 4 ml line is given by nebulization. Then loop and thiazide diuretics are the other treatment choice. Cation exchange resins, sodium polystyrene sulfonate promote exchange of sodium for potassium in GIT. 25 to 50 grams of in 100 ml of 20% sorbitol or 3 to 4 times a day should be given. Hemodialysis is the last option. This shows stalled T waves. The anesthetic implications of hyperkalemia. ECG monitoring should be done. Succinate choline, which causes hyperkalemia, should be avoided. Potassium-free solution should be given. Avoid acidosis. Potentiates and neuromuscular blockers. Mild hyperventilation it should be done. Now coming to sodium balance in normal sodium plasma sodium is 135 to 145 milligrams per liter. Hyponatremia. Hyponatremia is when sodium plasma concentration is less than 135 milligrams per liter. There are 3 types of hyponatremia. Hypotonic hyponatremia, also called hypoosmolar hyponatremia, isotonic hyponatremia, hypotonic hyponatremia. Then the hypotonic hyponatremia is further of 3 types: hypovolemic, hypervolemic, euvolemic. We are coming to causes of hypoosmolar hyponatremia. There are 3 types: hypovolemic, euvolemic, hypervolemic. The causes of hypovolemic are usually the renal loss because of diuretics, mineralocorticoid deficiency, salt wasting, nephropathic, osmotic diuresis, renal tubule acidosis. The GI are vomiting, diarrhea, intermittent sweating. Then euvolemic causes: primary polydipsia, SIAD, arginine vasopressin, glucocorticoid deficiency, hypothyroidism, chronic renal insufficiency. Hypervolemic hyponatremia, congestive cardiac failure, cirrhosis, nephrotic syndrome. Then there is term pseudohyponatremia or hyponatremia with normal plasma osmolality, hyponatremia with elevated plasma osmolality. The causes of hyponatremia with normal plasma osmolality, they should be either hyperlipidemia, hyperproteinuria, hyperproteinemia, and TURP syndrome. And hyponatremia with elevated plasma osmolality is hyperglycemia. The clinical features, mainly CNS symptoms comes. They include because of increased intracellular fluid volume. Severity depends on rapidity of onset and absolute increase in plasma sodium concentration. Asymptomatic or nausea, vomiting, depressed level of consciousness, confusion, agitation, stupor, seizure, and ultimately coma can occur. Cerebral edema usually occurs when the sodium concentration falls to less than 120 milligrams per liter, and cardiac symptoms occur when it is less than 100 milligrams per liter. How the diagnosis is made? For diagnosis, you need to note 3 things. First is the history, and then 3 tests: plasma osmolality, urine osmolality, urine sodium excretions. Now, plasma osmolality is calculated by the formula of 2 times the volume of sodium plus glucose divided by 18 plus blood nitrogen divided by 2.8. This will give the plasma osmolality. Then calculate the urine osmolality and urine sodium excretion. This is a whole chart how to calculate the how to find out the cause of hyponatremia. If we go into details of this, it will be a long topic, so I will omitting on this. I will be studying coming on a treatment part. The goals of therapy is to raise the plasma sodium concentration by restricting water intake and promoting water loss to correct the underlying disorder. The principles are by giving 0.9% of 3 French line in case of hypovolemic hyponatremia and water restriction in case of euvolemic and hypovolemic hyponatremia. So when to treat? Usually when the patient is symptomatic or the plasma sodium concentration is less than 120 milligrams per liter. A rate of correction depends on absence or presence of neurological dysfunction. In asymptomatic patients, this line is very careful, need to be read very carefully. In asymptomatic patients, 0.5 to 1 milligram per liter per hour or maximum of 10 to 12 milligrams per liter per hour for the first 24 hours. And if there are severe symptoms of hyponatremia there, then you should give hypertonic saline. That is also 1 to 2 milligrams per liter per hour for the first 3 to 4 hours at the maximum of 12 milligrams per day. Then you need to know this formula, how to calculate the sodium deficit in the body. Sodium deficit is total body water, that is into the desired sodium minus the present sodium. Total body water is calculated by body weight into 0.6 into males and 0.5 into females. This is a formula to calculate the sodium deficit. Now, how to measure change in plasma sodium? In physiolate sodium minus the serum sodium divided by total body water plus 1. So I will be coming to one case history that will tell us how to calculate it. A 45-year male, 50 kg by weight, presented with altered sensorium agitation. Diagnosis of hypoosmolar hyponatremia is made. Plasma sodium is 110. So first we will calculate the total sodium requirement, and then how much fluid we have to give. Desired sodium minus serum sodium into total body water. Desired sodium is 130. Our patient sodium is 110 into 0.6 into body weight. That will calculate the deficit is 600 milligrams of sodium in the body. So if we give inflates 3 French line, the osmolality is 513 minus 110 divided by 30, that is total body weight, body water plus 1. It's come to be 30 milligrams per liter. 100 ml will correct 1.5 milligrams per liter. So if we need to correct 10 milligrams in a day, then we have to give 800 ml of 3 French line at the rate of 34 ml per hour. If we correct more than this, rapid correction can lead to osmotic demyelination syndrome, that is also called central pondymyelosis, chronic hyponatremia, flaccid paralysis, dysarthria, dysphagia, anesthetic implication of hyponatremia. Plasma sodium should be more than 138 milliequivalents for patient undergoing elective surgery. Lower levels can result in significant cerebral edema. If it is hyponatremia, decrease in MAC and should be done intraoperatively. Agitation and confusion can result postoperatively. Now coming to hyponatremia. Plasma sodium concentration more than 145 milligrams per liter. The causes are impaired thirst in case of coma, hyponatremia, solute diuresis, diabetic ketoacidosis, non-ketotic hyposmolar coma, excessive water loss in case of diabetic insipidus or sweating. Then it's of further T type. Hyponatremia with low body sodium content, hypernatremia with normal sodium body content, hyponatremia with increased body sodium content. Hyponatremia with low body sodium content. This occurs because water loss is in excess of sodium loss. Occurs in osmotic diuresis, diarrhea, sweating. Hyponatremia with normal total body sodium content occurs due to water loss, diabetic insipidus, central diabetic insipidus or nephrin diabetic insipidus. Then hyponatremia with increased total body sodium following administration of large amount of hypertonic saline solutions. The clinical features are again mainly CNS. They are altered mental status, irritability, weakness, focal neurological deficit, may lead to coma and death. Prone for intracerebral or subrecurrent hemorrhage also. Diagnosis, there is a further mascade of how to calculate the diagnosis of making a diagnosis of hypernatremia. We'll meeting on this. We'll coming on goals of therapy to correct the water deficit and to stop the ongoing water loss. The principle: the correction should be done over 48 to 72 hours. Hypotonic saline like 5% dextrose should be given. Plasma sodium should not be lowered by 0.5 to 1 or not more than 12 milligrams per over 24 hours. To calculate the water deficit, you have to calculate with the formula of plasma sodium minus 140 over 140 into total body water. Rapid correction will lead to seizures or permanent neurological damage. Anesthetic implications are increased requirement of anesthesia required, enhanced uptake of inhalation anesthetics by decreasing cardiac output, predisposition to hypotension, hypoperfusion of tissues, decreases volume of distribution and reduction in dose of intravenous agents. Now coming to calcium imbalance in the body. Normal plasma calcium is 8.5 to 10 milligrams per liter. 50% is in ionized form, 40% is in protein bound, 10% is complex with anions. Hypocalcemia is less than 8.5 milligrams per liter. The causes are hypoparathyroidism, vitamin D deficiency, either nutritional or malabsorption, hyperphosphatemia, precipitation of calcium in pancreas or rhabdomyolysis, chelation of calcium with blood transfusion, or rapid infusion of large amounts of albumin. This is the calcium metabolism. It occurs between the GI, then there is an exchange between the kidneys and the bone. Hallmark of hypocalcemia is tetany. Paresthesia is circumoral region and extremities, laryngospasm, bronchospasm, abdominal cramps, urinary frequency, hypotension, arrhythmias. Latent hypocalcemia is occurs with the presentation of Chebyshev signs and Trousers sign. This is how is a Trousers sign. ECG will show prolongation of QT interval. Treatment is symptomatic hypocalcemia. In case of emergency, is only done with 10 ml of 10% calcium gluconate over 10 minutes. IV calcium should not be given with bicarbonate of phosphorus containing solutions. Serial calcium measurement should be done. Correction of the coexisting alkalosis should be done. Anesthetic implications are hypocalcemia should be corrected preoperatively. Serial ionized calcium levels monitored. Potentials and negative inotropic effects of barbiturates and volatile anesthetics. Laryngospasm can occur. Alkalosis should be avoided. Now coming to hypercalcemia. The plasma concentration of more than 10.5 milligrams per liter. The causes are hyperparathyroidism, malignancies, Paget disease of bone, excessive vitamin D intake, granulomatous disease, Mills-Alquier syndrome, drugs like thiazides and lithium. Clinical features are anorexia, nausea, vomiting, weakness, polyuria, ataxia, irritability, lethargy, and confusion. ECG changes show prolonged PR interval, widened QRS complex, shortened QT interval. This is a formula for calculating the corrected QT interval. Treatment is hydration with normal saline, loop diuretics like furosemide, hemodialysis. If the urine output is and sodium and potassium measurement should be done. Severe cases of bisphosphonate, pamintronate 62 80 mg IV over 8 hours. Calcitonin 2 to 8 units subcutaneous should be given. 90% due to malignancy and hyperparathyroidism. Anesthetic implications are saline diuresis, potassium and magnesium levels should be measured, decreased dose of neuromuscular blockade, CVP and pulmonary pressure monitoring should be done in case of this. Hyperventilation should be avoided. Now coming to the last but the most ignored electrolyte in the ICU, magnesium. Hypomagnesemia. Potassium plasma levels are less than 1.7 milligrams per liter. Causes are inadequate intake, reduced GI absorption because of malabsorption, small bowel or biliary fistula, severe diarrhea, prolonged neurogastric suctioning, renal losses because of diuresis, hyperparathyroidism, drugs like theophylline, diuretics, ethyl alcohol, aminoglycoside, amphotericin. The clinical features is patient is usually asymptomatic. It's associated with hypocalcemia and hypokalemia. The symptoms which comes are anorexia, weakness, paresthesia, confusion, seizures, or it coma can occur. Cardiac symptoms are atrial fibrillation, potentiates the digitalis toxicity, and ECG shows prolongation of PR and QT interval. Treatment should be immediately done with 2 grams of IV magnesium sulfate. in asymptomatic, and symptomatic patients should be done with 1 to 2 grams of IV over 10 minutes. 1 ml of 50% solution contains 4 milligrams of magnesium. Things which need to monitor while giving magnesium are tendon reflexes, respiratory rate, and urine output. Anesthetic implications, they are not major specific anesthetic implications. Coexistent hypocalcemia should be taken care of. Hypermagnesemia. The plasma levels are more than 2.5 milligrams per liter. Causes are usually antacids or laxatives, iatrogenic, hypothyroidism, adrenal insufficiency, lithium administration. Clinical features are hyperreflexia, drowsiness or skeletal muscle weakness, hypotension, prolonged PI interval and widening of QRS complexes, and finally respiratory arrest. Treatment is 10 ml of 10% calcium glucan IV over 10 minutes, loop diuretics with half normal saline in 5% dextrose, peritoneal hemodialysis. Anesthetic implications are monitoring tendon reflexes, respiratory urine output, potentiates the negative inotropic effects of anesthetics, neuromuscular blockade decreases by 25 to 50%. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the talk.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll wind up today's session. Tomorrow morning we'll start the scientific